Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This second hour will be focusing on a menace that is currently affecting the ASAL region and its impact on the country, especially the wetlands. That is drought mitigation in this particular country. Before I introduce my guest, we want to set a context of what we're going to discuss here. Given that there are stakeholders from the Kenya Meteorological Department, researchers and stakeholders within the environmental sector who are meeting yesterday here in the capital. And we want to start with that particular story that was prepared by Jalo Picho, where approximately 2.12 million Kenyans in Lamu, Mandera, Turkana are being affected by the drought-related stress. Let's get to hear from the stakeholders before we look at what is happening on the actual ground.
Kenya is currently experiencing heat and drought stress, with Lamu, Mandera and Turkana counties being the most affected after experiencing failed rains in the 2025 October, November, December short rain season. At the 12th National Climate Outlook Forum in Nairobi, organized by Kenya Met Department, that brought together climate experts, policymakers, academia and researchers to discuss how to focus upstream from response to prevention and readiness.
The UK is currently now working on disaster risk finance.
Acting Director General of Kenya Met Department, Edward Muriuki, in giving the 2026 March, April, May season forecast.
Highlands west of the Rift Valley, highlands east of the Rift Valley and the northwestern parts, we are anticipating average to above average rainfall. The eastern parts of the country, the ASAL parts, average to below average.
Noted that the country is not yet out of the woods, especially those counties that had failed and depressed rains.
Average may not be adequate to offset the deficit that is already on the ground because the OND rainfall failed in these areas.
This, even as he noted concerted efforts to ensure early warning alerts are dispatched to the counties.
We came up with the Weather Kiswahili Dictionary. We are trying to translate because these terminologies we realized we were just talking to ourselves.
Remains committed to working closely with the Kenya Meteorological Department and all partners to strengthen climate information services.
Muruki dismissed claims of a heat wave, saying above, below and depressed rainfall is expected in various counties during the coming March, April, May season.
Ili heat wave itangazwe katika mji wa Nairobi. Temperatures lazima, maximum temperatures ama hali ya joto ya kila siku ya juu lazima izidi 32.
Environment Cabinet Secretary Dr. Deborah Barasa, while acknowledging the heightened drought situation in the country, assured that the situation is manageable.
We're able to distribute food to the vulnerable communities and with the support from the commissioners to ensure that everyone, we are fully mapping everyone and everyone is really benefiting from the current government.
The Cabinet Secretary noted that understanding climate risk is crucial in deciding appropriate intervention mechanisms.
We have our experts at a county level who will now be working with the various sectors to ensure that everyone is well informed of the climate outlook.
Well, that is a picture from the stakeholders who are currently also meeting here in the capital today. And of course, we'll be receiving an adequate report of what is happening, especially on the weather outlook here in the country. Now, we have painted the picture of what the stakeholders are saying about the weather outlook of this country and how it has impacted various parts of the region, especially the ASAL areas where over 2 million people have been affected by the drought that is currently experienced in those particular regions. But also, less focused on what is happening on the ground. A story prepared by our very own Kasichana Masha.
The prolonged dry spell in Mandera County has rendered surface water dry, increased migration of pastoral communities to the few strategic boreholes that can barely cope with the demand. In response, the County Department of Water Services has launched a monitoring and water tracking exercise.
Seeing that people are getting water quite nicely, although according to the members of the public, there's need for upscaling this program in some cases, especially the water tracking issue.
Wale ambao wamepewa hii kazi ya kuletea wananchi maji wacha tuhakikishe kwamba tumewaletea kila mmoja ile trips ambayo amepewa aweze kusupply.
Far away in Rabai constituency, Kilifi County, the pangs of hunger have driven learners out of class.
Na hiki kiangazi kinatuathiri shuleni. Watoto wanaenda shuleni wakitoka lunch hour, wakienda nyumbani hakuna chakula, wanashindwa kurudi.
Kenya Post Authority has responded to their SOS with a donation of food items, but not enough for all learners.
Kuna chakula, kesho nitatuma lori ije itoe chakula, takuja kumpatia Mheshimiwa Kenga, mpe apewe.
KPA Managing Director Captain William Ruto made the announcement during the celebration of improved performance in the 2025 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education at Jimba Primary School in Rabai. Elsewhere, the National Drought Management Authority has flagged off a peace caravan along the Garissa-Isiolo-Meru corridor to promote peaceful coexistence, negotiated grazing, and responsible sharing of water and pasture resources as drought conditions in the region worsen. Speaking during the flag-off at Modogashe Town, NDMA Chief Executive Officer Colonel retired Hared Aden urged the communities to accommodate each other and share the available natural resources.
The elders to talk to the youth within those villages, their fellow elders within those villages, so that we appreciate the issue of the need to maintain peace.
Jana zilikongamana hapa, wakalala sehemu moja, wakakaa pamoja, wakakula pamoja, wakashare ideas pamoja, jinsi ya kuendelea kuishi kwa amani.
Now, given that you've heard from the stakeholders and the people on the ground, let me get to introduce my guest at this hour so that we can converse this particular issue. We do have Dr. Pamela from the Institute of Meteorological Training and Research. Daktari, welcome and thank you for making time for us today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
And also we do have Betty Ngeno, a Climate Justice Coordinator. Betty, karibu sana.
Asante.
And maybe we start with you, Betty. You have just heard from the people who are on the ground. You've heard from the stakeholders. Should we be worried as a country?
Yes, we should. I think we should much.
And why so?
Because in the pattern of climate now, it's changing rapidly. As we can see from in 2023, there was a really bad drought. Then comes 2024, there was flood. And now the part of 2025, the rains were really minimal. And there have not been enough rains as at now. So I think we should be worried. Yeah.
And Daktari, you were there yesterday in that particular conference. Given that you painted this particular picture for not only the millions of Kenyans who are affected in the ASAL regions, but also the impact of the changing weather patterns, maybe as a researcher, are you even worried?
Well, yes, it concerns me and other researchers, especially when we look at the trends. The scientific information that is available shows increasing intensity, severity, and the incidences of extreme weather events. The droughts are becoming many, they are becoming longer, they are becoming harsh. The floods also. When you look at the high temperatures, the temperatures are warming every other day. And what concerns us is the interventions you see being put in place, basically addressing physical health issues and things like that. But what of the mental health issues of the people that are affected, the vulnerable population? That gap worries me a lot because these are diseases that are not spoken about. They are not very well understood. There's a lot of stigma around it and lack of knowledge. And most important also, we lack the required number of professionals who can actually respond at the community level. So this becomes a concern because when these diseases go untreated, they get intensified, they progress, and of course they affect other aspects of life. When one has a mental health issue, likely they'll develop a physical illness. The person with a physical illness, because of the fear, the shame, the hunger, they will develop a mental illness. So the health and well-being of our people becomes a very big concern for us, especially with the indicators that we are getting. This year, likely, science has told us is going to be the hottest likely. So that actually concerns us. Yeah.
And Betty, you've just heard what Dr. is saying. It's going to be the hottest season we've ever seen in this country. Maybe what impacts are we looking at? Not only on the community, but the weather itself.
I think the biggest impact that will happen is there'll be a lot of hunger, and the most affected population and the marginalized communities are the ones who will feel the heat. For example, as we have seen in that clip that was played, there are children that are already out of school. What happens to their future? What happens to mothers who are nursing, who have small children? What happens to them? Of course, they'll die out of hunger. And I think government has not done much about mitigating that, these weather events. For example, these events have been happening. For example, in ASAL areas like Turkana, the Masai areas, and like parts of Kilifi. And I haven't seen much work done by the government. For example, there should be things like resistant crops. They should introduce things like water catchment areas whenever there is a lot of rain, so that they can use during the season of drought. Yeah.
And the impact, Dr. before, I know you presented yesterday on the Climate Outlook Forum itself, where you stressed the approach of gender, especially in tackling some of the effects we're witnessing across the country. But in terms of the effects that it will have, not only the weather, you've just talked briefly about the community, what impact will it have on the communities interacting with each other? Because you know what will happen. The resources will be meager, and we're looking possibly at conflicts. And even Waziri talked about it yesterday.
So when you look at the aspect of gender, what are the sectors of the community that are affected? Men are affected differently, women are affected differently, children are affected differently. When we look at the people living with disabilities, the effect is different from one sector of the economy to the other. The children are not going to school, likely dropping, as you have seen in that clip. Others are there. The temperatures are so high, they cannot concentrate in class. That will affect their performance in the education. When we look at the women, the lactating mothers and the pregnant women, reports exist that actually it is leading to premature birth, underweight children. A woman is not able to breastfeed the child because she has not eaten, you know. Others have to walk very far to look for water, to look for firewood. By the time they come, they start cooking, the children probably are asleep. That child will be malnourished. That woman who is getting so tired looking for resources will come tired herself, physically tired, mentally exhausted. Our life is affected. Look at the men we saw on the screen in Mandera, yes. Wajir. They are struggling to look for water for their livestock. A man watches his cows dying. One by one, one by one. What does that mean to that man? Loss of livelihood. He is supposed to feed his family. He is supposed to educate his children. What does that mean for that man? You know, looking at the high temperatures, the people in the Juakali sector, somebody is supposed to be riding. Today we have a lot of motorbikes on our road. Most of them are men. They are not shielded anywhere. That man is exposed in the heat the whole day, looking for customers. Does he get happy with that work that he's doing? Every morning he thinks, I'm going out to fend for my family, but I have to be in that heat for my family to eat. You know, it is really affecting. The sectors of the economy like food supply, food insecurity increases, lack of water increases, health becomes complicated because when there is no water, many of these families are not having enough water, clean water for drinking, clean water for using, so diarrheal diseases will be on the increase, you know. We look at malnutrition. When they are not able to feed, they will be malnourished. The congenital diseases that will emerge, you know. So it's really complicated. It's really complicated. And as it looks, it's likely not getting very better, but still we are giving ourselves hope as communities, because we have to do something about it. Yes.
And as an environmentalist, Betty, what impact does it have on the environment itself? And we know where the world is heading to ensure that we are in the right trajectory when it comes to dealing with environmental matters.
I think for environment, it's the most affected. For example, with it, there'll be a lot of evaporation. The water will evaporate, the grass will dry, there will be no more trees. And even the initiative for planting trees, how will they survive without water? It will be a very hard task. So I think as much it affects us, and we coexist with the environment. We cannot live without food. We cannot live without vegetable, and we get them from environment. So if the drought continues, it means there will be no vegetable, there will be no grass for animals and other things. And that means also that there will be a lot of, as Dr. said, the mental health issues. A lot of people will be affected, and it also increases the cases of GBV. Yeah, because, for example, in the pastoralist communities, where men move with their livestock to go to other places, they leave women behind. They become more vulnerable to even rape or even being abused by other people. Or so sometimes you find girls, you know, the roles of girls going to fetch water in the river. They go for long distances to get that water. What happens to them? You find that they trek a lot of kilometers to get water, just even 5 liters. What happens to them when dark or the night comes? They become vulnerable to GBV. And I think this is not going to end soon unless there is much interventions. As I saw the CS for environment, I said they are giving out food, but I think that's not sustainable. Yeah, it's not sustainable. What if it continues? How many people are going to feed? They need to come with a measure that is more sustainable. For example, as I had said earlier, they introduce the resistant crops to droughts. They can also come up with dams in those areas where they can catch water whenever it rains. They can store a lot of water, actually. But I think the government hasn't done much yet to mitigate that.
Okay. Yeah. I can see Dr. is smiling. You'll also respond to that as well. But Dr., the question I want to ask, because what Betty is arguing is very true. It's something that we've seen in this country continuously. What are we lacking? Is it the early warning systems or early actions that we need to mitigate this issue?
Well, I want to pick from where Betty has left. Of course, everyone should participate in mitigation activities, adaptation, creating resilience. It is everybody's responsibility. We cannot leave everything to government. After all, government is an institution. You know, there are other institutions that partner with the government to ensure things are happening. And when you go at the community level, we have civil society organizations. We have private sectors that recently, you have seen a lot of initiatives around climate smart agriculture, communities being taught. You have seen a lot of communities being encouraged to do water harvesting. And in fact, some of them being supplied with the tanks, you know, and being taught about water harvesting. So initiatives are being done, but of course, this issue of climate change is not only about Kenya. It is a global issue. When you look at India, you'll be surprised what is happening. Look at Europe. At times they are experiencing very heavy rains that are abnormal, isn't it? There are areas that are experiencing even more extreme droughts than us. So it is not about Kenya. It is for all of us to think, what can we do to create, to have mitigation, to have adaptation, and to be able to create communities that are resilient, because this is not yielding anytime soon. In terms of early warning, early action, early warning is ensuring that the climate information is available to virtually everybody in the community, across the sectors, across the social divides. When people are forewarned, they are able to take early action. But how are we going to give information if probably we are not having everybody participating? That's why stakeholders' involvement is very key. And at the Kenya Meteorological Department, even the National Climate Outlook Forum that is taking place yesterday and today, the director has made very extreme attempts to ensure that all sectors of the economy are brought on board. There is agriculture, water, environment, forest, health, you know, the social sectors, the finance sector, brought on board so that they can link together. Now, this weather forecast has been given. What does it mean to environment? What does it mean to agriculture? The agriculture sector group will sit down with not only people from the ministry, but farmers, people who are giving seeds, people who are giving fertilizer maybe, people who are financing agriculture activities, to sit down and discuss. This is the forecast that has been given. And remember, the forecast is different for Western region, for the Central region, and the Coast region.
Yes.
So they sit down and look. When they say at the Coast region, it will be below normal. What does it mean to agriculture? What crops can sustain this kind of rainfall that we are being told, that can withstand these kind of temperatures that are going to be warmer than normal? Similarly for the Western, similarly for... Then they also, the health sector looks at, sits down with the experts in climate, the experts in health, the communities, to say, yes, these are the likely diseases in this region because of this kind of temperatures. So this kind of rainfall. So who is going to be affected? Who is the most vulnerable in this region? Now, the importance of that is, if we see who is the most vulnerable, these are the people to be brought on the table to be able to understand what is the implication of that forecast to them. Because if we don't discuss this, then it means there are people who will be left out. The people living with disabilities are brought on board. How will they be affected? So that they also know what mitigation measures to put in place, what adaptation measures to put in place. So climate information for early warning, and the climate information for early action, so that all the sectors of the economy now go back. You know, there is a lead time between now and the time the season is starting. Mid-March, thereabout, as the director will give us the forecast today. Now, between now and then, we have like 3 weeks. So everybody has the responsibility to sit down in their various counties. What Kenya Met does, when the national forecast is released today, all the county directors of meteorology will go back to their counties, map out their stakeholders, and call them together, discuss this forecast has been given for the entire Kenya. What does it mean for Bungoma County? What does it mean for Isiolo County? Isiolo will discuss what has been said about them. Mandera will discuss what has been said about them and ask themselves, what systems do we put in place to ensure that we create resilience for our communities? We provide the necessary implements so that our people can be able to adopt, isn't it? So it is very, very important we have early warning for early action and stakeholder mapping, stakeholder participation, the voice of everyone, you know? When you see the men going with their cows long distances, what does that mean to the family? It means the women and the children, and especially the young ones, because the boys will likely accompany the father and the elderly men to look for pasture and the water. So the women and the girls and the old people won't be left. Will they have food to eat? Are those people who have gone that far having food to eat? You know, the challenges are multiple, but we have to sit together, think without leaving this to anyone. Everybody has to take responsibility because climate will affect, weather will affect every one of us differently. Yes.
And Betty, you've just heard Dr. Pamela talking about that particular report and how it will affect all the parts of the country. Maybe as a climate justice coordinator, how crucial will that report be in ensuring there is civic education, public awareness down in the ground? Because I know you talk to the people there.
I think that report is really important, but there is a disconnect. There is a very big disconnect between the policy level and the ground level. Okay. Yeah, for example, the formation of the default government was meant to reach the people in the ground, but let me say the services are not reaching there. For example, the Meteorological Department, you say they are in all 47 counties.
Sure.
I don't know where what they do there, but I believe that there should be community levels of those passing that information to communities, because the communities are the one affected, not the persons in the offices. Because you can come to office, formulate a policy, you say this and this, and leave the paper there. What happens to that person who needs that information? So I think there's still a very much disconnect between the policy level and the community level, and that needs to be worked on as soon as possible, because the most affected people are the one in the ground. The women, the children, the men there in the community. On how, another thing is there is misinformation and lack of information on these things. And if people have knowledge of this happens and this season is coming and these crops for this season, and if they can get those seedlings, they can be always ready. But there is no that information. They don't know what they can plant for that season, so they just you hear weather forecast in the radio or in TV, and that's all. So they don't know if they are the ones affected and if they need anything to do about it. Yeah, for example, in most communities, there are also older people. What happens to them? Yeah, and another thing, in most, let me say, African cultures or in our communities, men own lands, but women cultivate.
Yes.
So if women don't have that information on seedlings, what to plant, what will they do? Nothing. Yeah, and that's where anger comes in, and that's where men have to travel far and get maybe grass for the animals, and women get water from far. But if they have that information at community level, I think that many problems would be solved. So I think the government should work on that. They should have centers in communities where this information can be passed directly to communities, or the information maybe of chiefs, or they should have people like that in community, every village. They say this week there have been information about this and this month there will be drought, and you need to plant sweet potatoes or bananas for that season so that they can be sustainable, and people will do that, so that people maybe cannot plant maize that cannot survive that season. You understand? Yeah.
And Dr. has also responded to Betty in terms of, she has raised a very pertinent issue. How do we bridge that policy to the planners to ensure that they are implemented, especially the county governments, because devolution was brought to address such concerns?
Well, okay, looking at the importance of the information, as I said, everybody needs to be on board, isn't it? Betty has brought the aspect of policy and the county level, and of course the grassroots, the last mile.
Yes.
Government has made a lot of efforts to ensure that people are engaged. That's why, as I said, the Kenya Met Department is in every county. And the Kenya Met Department, their role is to produce the forecast and be able to disseminate it, but there are other sectors that have to play. That's why they are brought all together, so that they can be told to think what this means to them. And then bring the communities, the opinion leaders, the civil society organizations. I know of late, people are speaking about climate and weather. Originally, you would hear those days when I was young, when Ngwata Francis would come to the TV to give the forecast. That's the time everybody starts running to the kitchen to do it. They are not keen on the forecast. But today, people are asking for the forecast, because they know what it means to them. So it is to increase the awareness at the community level. I look forward to a day probably where we can have, today we are having this mbunge ya mwananchi. Can we have a mbunge ya mwananchi about weather? You know, probably something resembling that. So that mwananchi can be able to, at that level. And that's where the chiefs come in. I have participated in Kajiado County, where the Ngao, the network of the government institutions like the chiefs, the sub-chiefs, are involved at the Mbarasa point. When they call the Mbarasas, the forecaster comes and is given some time to be able to speak to the people in the Mbarasa. We need to have a place where women participate, so that when they go to Chama, they can actually say, hey, they have sent this rain is like this. What can we plant? Instead of us buying sufurias, can we buy the seeds that they have sent are the ones that are can persevere this kind of rainfall this time? That kind of empowerment. The youth. Youth today, Africa is 60% the young people.
Yes.
Where are they on the table? We need to have many of them involved. Because why the youth? They have even better channels of passing information. Today, what is happening in a small incident in Lamu will be viewed by somebody in Busia, isn't it?
Yes.
Within seconds, it has spread. So if we can have the youth with their social media getting to engage with climate information so that they can be used as the channel for communicating that. Schools, we have the regional training school at the Kenya Met Department called the Institute for Meteorological Training and Research. It is the regional training school for Africa-speaking countries, English-speaking countries. We have small, short courses that can be tailored to various sectors. The business people, what does weather mean to them? We have small courses that can be tailored for them so that they come and they are taught even 5 days. The long courses also, we need many people to know about climate and weather and get involved in it. The more the information gets to the ground, the more decisions are made around weather and climate.
And of course, you can also respond to what Dr. Pamela is raising, because the youth play a critical role not only in climate but in many other areas. But what can be done to ensure they take interest? Is it that it is not taught very well, or the interest is not shown within the schools? What can be done to ensure that, to bring these youths so that they can be advocates of the climate?
I think we have a problem as a country. There's a really bad reading culture. So sometimes maybe you have information, they are not interested to get it. But I must comment, there's Trufena. You saw her, and it caught everyone's attention, and it passed a message out there that we should take care of our environment, and we should get something to take over our environment. So I think involvement of it is very critical. As Dr. Aria said, they are the biggest population. If we can involve them, there was a program on, it was called Vijana Mtaani. Yes, that's a project like that. So they should be a project like that where they get stipends for it, because you find most of them, they are unemployed, and telling someone that you go and plant trees without getting something, so they rather go to places where they can be paid something. So they leave that one. But if they are empowered to do that, if they are empowered, they take it as a form of employment. I think we will go for the country. Because the youth, they are more energetic, unlike the older population or children, and they can really pass that message of environment and take care of environment.
And Dr. Ari, there was a question that I picked from social media. People were asking when we were continuing with the show, they're asking why these extreme weathers, because they're saying today you'll have heavy rainfall and then tomorrow we're into drought. How is this possible?
Well, science is showing that the extremes are occurring. Of course, there are very many drivers of the change in climate, isn't it? The burning of the fossil fuels, the population increase that is actually leading to a lot of urbanization, and we are removing the trees that should be cooling the environment. The high temperatures are making the water levels to rise, so we have more frequent droughts and floods happening even in the coastal regions. You have seen what is happening in the Rift Valley lakes, like Baringo. Even without a lot of rain in a certain place, it is still soils and people are being displaced. So we have a lot of drivers. It's basically the science of climate, and it is a big debate, it's a big discussion. Let nobody maybe say that there is no climate change. Everybody is experiencing, you know. It's important to understand that. I want to make mention of the importance of using other structures of the government. We recently have this structure called the community health volunteers. You know, they are going to the mashinani. If those people can be empowered with climate information, when they go, they can be able to pass it. And especially from a health perspective, when they are going to house to see what is happening, who could be sick in that family, they can even go with that information. And if they find people who are getting frequently sick, want to find out, is it because of these high temperatures? Is it because there is a lot of mosquitoes? What is the cause of these mosquitoes? The temperatures are high. Maybe there is a pool of water that is lying in the compound, so that they teach the people how to make sure that the breeding ground for the mosquitoes has been destroyed, isn't it? Then they are also able to identify, are there stresses? Is there stress is their anxiety. If they are not even able to treat, they can refer, so that we can have referral mechanisms that exist within the county. We need also to increase the pool of the responders. When we have people responding, many will respond, but how many of them have the psychological awareness? So that you can be able to look at this man who is in the house and not talking, this man who has become violent and he was not violent, a man who is starting to take alcohol and he has not been taking alcohol. And then you listen to the family and they are saying, you know, he used to go to graze, now he has no cows to graze. So he locks himself in the house. You get an indicator of something like likely anxiety peaking, a mood disorder. If you are not, as a community health volunteer, able to handle it, refer and ensure that that person goes for treatment. So we need to use all the infrastructure that is available.
And of course, as you respond to the same question, we're talking about the carbon footprint of our country. Maybe give us, I will ask you, Dr. the same, but give us a status update on that as well, Betty, given that that is where the world is headed, especially with the Paris Accord climate that was signed back then. Are we adhering to what was signed as a country? Where are we?
So far, some organizations are still not paying for the carbon credits, and it's really a big challenge. Especially footing of the bills for those carbon credits. So it's still a very big challenge, and it's going to affect all of us. We are going to face it rough.
Dr.
Of course, the understanding of even what is this carbon trend, how many people understand what it is, how many people are able to benefit from it, or it's a concept that is being brought to us. When people don't understand things they watch, so it doesn't benefit them. We need to have more education, more information about the carbon trend, so that the people at the ground level can understand what does it mean, what is this all about, so that we move from policy to practice. Yes, I think that will, when we bridge this gap, people will understand, and the policies will translate to actual actions that will benefit the societies that we really care for.
Also, their conservationists who raised an alarm just the other day, we did a story on that, where we have seen encroachment into wetlands, because they're saying the wetlands needs to be protected because there are fewer in the country. Maybe your thoughts on that as well, and as a climate justice coordinator, what are you doing to protect those water catchment areas?
I think yesterday was the World Wetlands Day. And a lot of people in the space, in the climate space, they are coming up with ideas to plant trees along the wetland areas, because if we don't protect that, the rivers will try all of it. For example, where I come from, there was a very good river. It had very clean water when we were growing up, but now it has dried up because the people have cleared trees in the wetland area. They have used it for firewood, and they don't replant. So I think a lot of education is needed, especially for communities. As I said earlier, a lot of information, because they don't understand the importance of taking care of that wetland area. So someone comes up, they see a very huge tree, indigenous tree. They see firewood, they see logs for selling, and that's what they do, and they don't replace that tree. So I think there's a lot of gap that needs to be bridged, especially on education, on the importance of taking care of those wetlands, on the importance of taking care of rivers, on the importance of taking care of environment in general.
Maybe as we're coming to a close, you can also respond to that. Why should we protect the wetlands?
The wetlands are like the lands, is the breathing system of the entire planet. So if we mess with our wetlands, we mess with a lot of the ecosystem. So if we mess with the ecosystem, then we bear the brunt of this challenge. But as Betty has said, people don't understand. Then again, the population growth. Originally, like in my village, you had a big land with the 5 sons. So you could divide it between the 5 sons. And there is the place you say this one we cannot touch because it's a forest. It's not counted for anyone. But today, with the population growth, everybody is looking for where to live, isn't it? When you come to our cities today, we have planted more buildings than trees, isn't it? What does that mean? So policy implementation, understanding of the policies by the people, so that when you are saying, I have to cut these trees so that I can plant maize, how sustainable is maize when you compare with the trees? But what is the meaning of this tree to not only the owner of that land, but the society that surrounds that, that home? So people need to be a lot of awareness creation, a lot of education around the importance of the environment. And knowing that there are species actually that will not survive in other zones, so that people can understand which species will grow better in this area, so that you don't grow trees, plant trees and they die. We have to move from planting to growing. Let it be taught even to the young people in schools. The faith-based organizations, our churches, our mosques, and other faith organizations, people trust them. The community trusts their faith leaders. Can these messages also be packaged that the faith leaders can be able to speak to them? I have seen issues of vaccination now being announced in church, isn't it? It assists from being just a health center thing to the church. So the message of climate should get to the faith-based organizations because of the trust people have for their faith leaders. If this information is packaged to them, first of all, they understand, they evaluate, and what it means to the faith of the people. You can imagine somebody who has seen their crop die, and they had taken a loan. Their faith leader had prayed for them that the harvest will be in pampa. Now, everything has failed. Will they believe that faith leader again?
No.
So the faith leader needs to see that as a point of contact, that I have to make sure that this person stays in the faith by living well with the environment, by understanding how to care for the environment. That is an entry point that we need to focus on.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me allow you at least 30 seconds each, given that we have come to the final leg of our conversation. Let me start with you. Talk to Kenyans who are watching you right now. What should they do to ensure our climate is better for us at the end of the day?
Thank you so much for that, and it has been a pleasure. And what I can say is that all of us have a responsibility. We all should take a responsibility of taking care of our environment. We should ask ourselves, how many times are we throwing litters? You buy a sweet, you just throw it anywhere. Yeah, you buy anything, you just dispose it anyhow. And if we are cutting down trees for firewood or even logs, how many are we replacing? Or how are we taking care of them? So all of us, we have a responsibility as a community, as a country, as a person. It should start from you as a person. If it starts from you as a person, it grows. And as the coordinator for Mothers Rebellion, we believe in the care nature of mothers. If mother can understand these concepts, they can pass the knowledge to their children. So if we have information on what's happening, we should pass to your neighbor. The neighbor should pass to another neighbor. And that's how we will come out of this. Thank you.
And Dr. finally?
Wow. I would want to tell our viewers that our life is precious. And if your life is precious, then your environment is precious. We have to learn to coexist with the plants, coexist with the animals, the flora and fauna. And as individuals, as families, as communities, we all have a responsibility. Let's have our hands on the deck to think about the very small contribution you can make or the big contribution that you can make, depending on your area of location, your abilities, your capacities. Let everybody on a daily basis think environment, think climate, think sustainability. Because this is not a sport that is for only people to watch. You know, there are sports that people don't even care to understand the details about the game, isn't it?
Yes.
But for this game, around the environment, around climate, it is every one of us responsibility. There are no spectators in it.
Thank you so much. Dr. Pamela from the Institute of the Meteorological Training and Research, and we wish you all the best as you continue to converse that important discussions that you're happening here in one of the hotels here in the capital, and also Betty Ngeno, a climate justice coordinator. And there you have it. If we do not protect our environment, we know what Mother Nature can do to us at the end of the day. We have seen its adverse effects, and also we have seen its joy as well. But that concludes our conversation. The conversation about drought mitigation continues, and we are waiting waiting for that particular report that will guide not only us as journalists in some of the stories that will cover across the 47 devolved units, and also keeping tabs on the drought itself. That concludes our conversation. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. Don't go too far. Kurunzi Mashinani is up next, and we'll be briefing you some of the stories making headlines at this hour. For now, good morning.